What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's the final captaincy video of the season, game week 38, of course, and I'm going to go through and look at who the best captaincy is. As always, or not as always, slightly differently this time, I'm finally getting to record after the press conferences. Of course, there might be embargoed quotes and news that comes out by the time this video goes out, but it shouldn't change too much, and if it does, just bear that in mind. I think there is probably one standout match and player that a lot of people are looking towards that is going to be the most captain player this week, and there's probably a set of differentials people are looking at. So I'm going to talk about those two things and then look at the rest of the fixtures rather than go through loads of different teams where people aren't really considering captains. So it's basically the main player choice, the differentials, then I'll talk about some ultra differentials, depending on how crazy and risky you want to go. So if you have enjoyed this series this season, please do give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and let's jump into it. Okay, so the obvious player this week is Salah. You know it, I know it, everybody else knows it. I probably don't need to speak about it for too long. He'll probably even be the player that's on the thumbnail for this video. It's a really good fixture with a really good player that's not only chasing the golden boot, but if you look at his stats as well, like Mane's doing okay at the moment, Firmino's doing okay, but Salah really is that kind of step above. Like he's had 19 shots in the box over the last 6 matches. That's more than 3 a game on average. That's really, really good. His expected goal involvement is 4.85. Again, it's close to 1 expected goal involvement per match. Salah has been on fire recently, and we know what ability he has in terms of getting a big haul, basically. That's what I'm trying to say, like double figures or more. So if you're looking for a safe captain that's a good choice with a great fixture, he is the one you go for. Like, you don't need me to talk about Crystal Palace. Like, okay, their defense has gotten slightly better recently, but if I look at the fixtures they've played, I would assume there have been some fairly easy ones. Obviously, they had Sheffield United and Southampton as part of the last 4. They also played Villa without Jack Grealish for most of that game too. To be fair, if you go to the 6 games, it's Man City and Leicester, but 1.41 expected goals conceded is not good anyway. So yeah, good defensive target. The big question is, if you want to go differential from this match, are Mane and Firmino options? I would say yes. I would always side with Mane without even seeing these stats, but the stats still point to Mane over Firmino, and obviously he is a midfielder as well, so if you think Liverpool are going to get a clean sheet, extra point for a goal, all that usual good stuff, he's created the same amount of chances as Salah. The only thing I would say, and this is like eye test based on one game, right, but when I watched Burnley, they got a lot of counter-attacking opportunities, or at least they were on the final shoulder and ready to play the ball through for someone to run onto. That was almost always Salah. It always feels like he's the one close to the box rather than Mane. In general, and I will say, from seasons gone past, because obviously last year the Mane versus Salah debate was a bit closer, Salah always takes more shots. As a general rule, Mane tends to have more quality shots. He tends to shoot closer to goal, and maybe selects his shots a little bit better, potentially, if you went back and looked at them all. Because if you look at the expected goal involvement, it's not that much different considering he's had 7 fewer shots. Okay, it's one difference, but he's had 7 fewer shots. So his numbers are good. On his day, he can outscore someone. If you were looking for a safe-ish differential, I think Mane is the one. But if you're looking to consolidate rank, you're high enough and you don't want to necessarily worry about going up too much more. You just want to stay where you are. It has to be Salah. It's obvious, and that's the way it is. The only caveat I will give is there's quite a bit riding on this game. Liverpool just need to win. They don't need to win by 6-7 goals, right? So it could be cagey if they don't get a goal early. They could get nervy and try and force things. The only hope, I think, for a lot of goals in this is if they get 1 or 2 in the first 10 to 20 minutes, and then they might just keep going for it, just to absolutely batter Crystal Palace. But I'm not expecting like 7-0 or whatever the reverse fixture was. But yeah, there should be goals in this. Salah the stand-up. You all knew that anyway, right? So for this, rather than do it team by team, I've just done 3 differentials that I think people should possibly look at or are looking at. And then over on the left for the defensive stats, I've obviously got 2 different teams. Southampton are playing West Ham, so that's Antonio, and West Brom are playing Leeds, so that's Bamford and Rafinha. I've just included expected goals conceded. I haven't put shots in the box for that as well. Now, if you look at Southampton's defence, over the last 6, they did kind of go off on one a bit. If I have a quick look here at who they played in the last 6, it was Leeds, Fulham, Palace, Liverpool, Leicester and Spurs. So they did have some tricky fixtures. And I don't think West Ham are going to be any pushovers either. And West Brom defence has just been awful for pretty much the whole season. Big Sam's gone at the end of the season. Like, how much does he care now? Pereira might be out. That's a really big miss for West Brom. I'm not really quite sure what they're going to do without him. I know he's an attacker, but I see it a bit like Jack Grealish. You got someone like him who can maybe hold the ball up, play a pass. You make things happen in attack. When they're not there, I think a lot of teams, especially West Brom, will just fall back to defending. Again, it's obvious, right? Leeds one of the best attacks, West Brom one of the worst defences. It's the perfect matchup. The reason I've selected these players is I think when you go differential, you don't want to go necessarily differential for the sake of it. I've said that like so many times this season, right? All these players are quality players. For me, out of these three, Rafinha's the last pick. The reason for that is he doesn't take too many shots, so his expected goal involvement's not too far from Bamford's. But most of his will be made up of expected assists rather than goals. And goals are obviously worth more, especially to a striker, right? Because goals really is the key for bonus, right? Once a striker gets a goal, it's very difficult to beat them on bonus if the midfielder scores a goal as well. So I don't mind Rafinha as a one-off differential punt if it's someone you want to go for. Like his stats, right? His underlying stats for the season per 90 minutes, they're on a par with the likes of Mahrez, who no one would bat an eyelid of captaining if he was a week in, week out starter. So yeah, I still think Rafinha is actually quite underappreciated. But up against Bamford and Antonio, it's hard to make a massive case for him. If you're going for someone from Leeds, I do think Bamford is better. The number of shots he's had has kind of reduced a little bit recently, but Leeds have had some pretty difficult fixtures. Like if I bring their fixtures up here just to have a quick look, bearing in mind they also didn't have Rafinha for some of these. So Southampton and Burnley were decent, but before that it was Spurs, Brighton, Man United, Liverpool, Man City. So in the last kind of 7 games, right, so in his last 6 matches where the stats are from, that includes Liverpool, Man United, Brighton, whose defence has been pretty good, and Spurs. So it's not been that easy for them. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. There's a little bit of context around it. With Antonio, West Ham have still got something to play for. Now, in some ways you could say, well, that's good. They're going to go for it. But they just need 1 point to confirm 6th place. They don't need to win, they just need 1 point. Now, that doesn't mean Moyes is going to go out and play for a draw, but he also doesn't want to go out and lose the game either. So I wonder how restrictive they'll be early on. Maybe when they start finding out what's happening at Spurs, happening at Everton. If they nick a goal, will they go for a second? I'm sure they will, but will they be cautious about how they go about it? So if there was nothing else riding on it, I'd actually probably opt for Antonio because I just think his stats are always so good. Just look at that, 4.36 expected goal involvement. I'm quite jealous of not being able to get to him in one move. If I could, I absolutely would, and I would consider him captain. I just think for Leeds, there's a lot less riding on the game, but I don't think they're going to play any differently. And that's what I like about them so much this week. So I'm going to say Bamford, then Antonio, then Rafinha for my captaincy choices. But if you wanted to go for Antonio, I absolutely wouldn't begrudge it or argue against it at all. Okay, so looking at the rest of the matches, unless I'm missing anyone, I feel like most players outside of the kind of, Salah, Mane, Bamford, Rafinha, Antonio. So I think I put 6, but that's actually 5. That's really bad counting. It's because of Firmino, but I'm discounting Firmino. I think you're kind of in, this is definitely a punt territory for a few reasons. Either one, you're not quite sure about the player, you're just hopeful, or they've got a difficult fixture, or you don't know if they're going to start. And that is the big problem for a lot of the players that are left. I've said before, and I know like it's repeating myself, but there's always going to be some crossover when you do as many videos as I do. Manchester City versus Everton, right? You always back Man City for goals. It's not even a thing I've got against Everton, right? I know some people think I do, but looking at the stats, right, per 90 minutes, Everton have conceded 1.25 expected goals per game. That's on par with like Villa, Southampton, etc., and Fulham, and they are teams that I would target. Therefore, Everton also have to be a team to target as well. Will Ancelotti absolutely turn it on to stop Pep Guardiola? Possibly, but I think if we find out who's starting for City, they are genuine captaincy options. But if we don't know, then you're taking a punt. Will Foden start? I doubt it, but he could. Will Mahrez start? I doubt it, but he could. Torres, I'd be hopeful for, but will I put too much money on that? No. So they're in punt territory, but if we know they start, then they look like great value. Arsenal, I don't mind Arsenal from a defensive point of view this week. I'm not sure about them from an attacking point of view, but Aubameyang can be explosive, but he's not really shown too much this season. Chelsea versus Villa is a bit like Leicester and Liverpool games. They need to win, right? Preferably to keep it in their... For Chelsea, they can keep it in their own hands by winning. But they need to win by 1 goal, right? They don't need to win 4-5-0. And if I can have a quick look at Chelsea here... because I've not actually checked this before recording, but I wouldn't be surprised. They've hardly scored any goals under Tuchel. So they have scored. So they scored 4 against Palace, and apart from that, they have not scored more than 2 goals since. Oh, geez, I don't know if they ever have. They haven't scored more than 2 goals since game week 14. So could I see a 2-0 win here? Yes. Now, if you get the right player, if Havertz scores twice, if he's involved with both the goals, goal and assist, same with Pulisic, then great. That's a great captaincy for the last day. But again, you're in a bit of punt territory. Chelsea don't score too many goals. If they go 1-0 up, will they just defend the lead? They might do. Elsewhere, Leicester versus Spurs. I've spoken about this already again. I don't think Leicester are going to go from the off. And I don't know if I'd bet on Spurs right now. I think if Leicester have to chase the game, then yes, there's space in behind for Kane to find Son, etc. But I wouldn't want to bank on it. I think the only other fixtures then it's like Burnley versus Sheffield United, like a Chris Wood. That's about it. I don't think there are as many punts as we probably think. And also, players like Bamford and Antonio, they're quite highly owned. But from a captaincy point of view, I don't see many people going there. So I would maybe side towards that. But Pulisic and Havertz, maybe if they start, and Man City forwards for sure. But elsewhere, you're in mega punt territory. So I'd only do that if you're absolutely got nothing to lose. And you're basically chasing a lost cause. There we go. That is it. The final captaincy video of the season. Please let me know down below who you are captaining this week, especially if you've got a bit of a differential punt that I've not talked about. Really interested to hear, because I wouldn't be surprised if there's some player that I've missed out, even maybe an obvious one. But yeah, we talked about the main contenders. Do give it a like if you enjoyed it and hit subscribe if you're new around here. This is my final pre-recorded video of the season. I'm now milking all the final stuff. We'll have more streams though. So on Sunday, tomorrow, by the time this goes out, I'll be streaming in the morning for deadline. That's probably going to be around 11:30 or 12, right up until the deadline at 2:30. So it's probably going to be longer than 2 hours. Then we'll have the watch along from about 3:30 till 6. And then I'll do an evening stream like I always do, like the knee-jerk stream. But obviously there's nothing to knee-jerk to because it'll be over. It'll be a bit more of a party atmosphere, very, very chill. That'll probably be around 8 o'clock, I would say. 7 or 8 maybe, probably not too much later than that. So there is more content to come, but it'll be in the form of 3 streams on Sunday. No more pre-recorded content before the season is out now. So thank you very much for joining me this season. Hopefully the captaincy videos have helped you and all the other videos as well. If you haven't already hit that button, do go and double check and hit subscribe if you haven't. Do give it a like. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I will see you tomorrow for what is going to be an exciting day. Cheers all.